Hey guys, welcome back. This is my 34th Floss 2 video, and I plan on sharing with you an update of my stitching for the months of July and August of 2018. But first of all, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, I hope that you enjoy the things that I have to share with you. If you're returning, welcome back. Thanks for spending time with me. We've had a really great summer. As I mentioned before, we've had the entire family together for the whole summer, and it's been a really great experience. Last week, I took a couple days off work and helped my kids move back into school. We actually took 2 cars up, and so I ended up driving up to Salt Lake and back all by myself. It's the first time either of my children had ever driven that far in one long stretch, so I let them drive together in the other car just so that nobody would fall asleep. That was kind of my biggest fear. Anyway, because of that, I ended up traveling like 1,500 miles in 3 or 4 days all by myself, with nothing but my podcasts and my audiobooks to keep me company. That kind of made the drive a little bit long, but I made it back home safely. While we were up there, we went to Lagoon, which is an amusement park in north of Salt Lake, and my son hadn't been there since he got home from Mexico, and there is a ride that they put in while he was gone. It's a big roller coaster called Cannibal that he really wanted to ride. So we spent a day at Lagoon, which was really fun. It was kind of nice to just spend some time with my twins. They're back at school. My son started classes last week. My daughter's first day of classes are tomorrow, so they're settling down into the grind. It looks like they've got some pretty good roommates, and they should have a really great year. Now that I'm home, the house feels really quiet. We're back down to it's amazing how much of a difference two extra people make. So now we're back down to just the 4 of us, and my daughter's finishing up her senior year, is starting her senior year of high school, I should say, and so it's we're kind of staring down the, we're getting to the point where we're going to be empty nesters, I think. Anyway, everybody's talking about how fall's starting. It kind of makes me jealous because we don't have fall here in Arizona. Actually, it's supposed to cool off this week. We're only supposed to be in the 90s, which is a little bit early. I mean, usually we have hundreds into October, so if it's going to cool off this early, that's going to be really nice. But in Arizona, we don't have fall. In Arizona, we have 3 seasons. We have spring, summer, hot summer, and those are our 3 seasons. And hot summer comes in the middle of summer, so it still feels like summer here, and it's not going to really cool off and be nice until usually the end of October, right around Halloween is when it gets nice here. So everybody talking about fall, you guys are all making me jealous. Fall is actually my favorite season of the year, and yeah, that's one thing I miss about being here in Arizona, is I miss those nice crisp fall mornings with just a little bit of frost on the ground, and you know, just being able to bundle up. We get a little bit of that at the end of December, so that's still a ways away. But so I'm still in the middle of summer. Anyway, I want to respond to a couple of comments and questions that have been made on my channel since the last time I spoke to you. First of all, and I'll show you later on Let Freedom Ring, I was complaining about doing lettering on over 1 on 32 count, and I asked for suggestions about anchoring thread, and a lot of you suggested what to do, what I do, the same thing that I do when I start thread, which is use a waist knot or try to place it so that my stitching goes over the top of it. My biggest problem has been ending, and I got a couple of suggestions from like Mary Rose at Stitch Bliss Corner. She suggested using a sharper needle, and that's what I started doing. That helped me anchor, run my thread back underneath the stitches. I think because it's text that I'm doing and there's nothing around it, it makes it more difficult because there are fewer stitches that you have to anchor with. And anyway, I eventually got that text done, as you'll see. I have one more stretch of over 1 text that I'm not looking forward to. That has just been the hardest part of that whole piece, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Linda Berry talked about how she likes the way that I stitch, but she's actually tried it, but she's always had a hard time keeping the parked threads from tangling. And yeah, they kind of tangle a little bit on the ends, on the free ends, but I found that if I pull the threads from where they come up out of the fabric, that everything just kind of works out. I very rarely have, I mean, I've once or twice had kind of a big knot on the ends that I've just kind of cut off. But in general, I don't really have a lot of problems with tangling. Linda, by the way, she comments on every one of my Instagram posts. So Linda, thanks for doing that. I really enjoy hearing from you. Thanks to everybody. I mentioned how I'm a little bit of a size snob. Thanks. There were a lot of people who said they felt the same way, which kind of makes me feel good that I'm not the only one that thinks that way. Also, if you've been watching Ginger Gerald's channel, and if you're subscribed to me, I assume that you're subscribed to Gerald. Of course, he does his Confessions of a Floss Tuber series, and he asked me to participate with him. So that video went up a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, feel free to go over and check it out. It was really fun filming with him, and I really enjoyed talking with him. We've had lots of comments. What's really cool, I think, is that we had a couple of guys comment on that video about how they're also male stitchers, and talking about we kind of talked about how it feels to be somebody. How it feels to be a little bit uncomfortable going into a needlework shop because of being a man. And we had a couple of guys who also commented and kind of said the same thing. It was really great to hear from them. I know that Gerald has said this, and I'll say it also. I know that there are guys who watch my channel, and I'd love to hear from you more. And also continue to encourage you to make your own videos, because it's really a great experience. One of the things that in that talking with Gerald after we finished, I thought about all of the things that I should have said or maybe could have said better. But one of the things that he asked is, he mentioned that he had a hard time picturing what my stitching setup looked like. So I've tried to take a couple of pictures that I'm going to try to insert here to show you kind of how things are set up. My frame and my stand are so big that it's kind of hard to get a good picture. But here's a couple of pictures. You'll see basically that's my kitchen table, and I have that PVC frame. That PVC stand that I built, and that sits on top of my table, and my piece that I'm working on just sits in the kind of tray that's in the stand. And it's really easy for me to, when I need to get to the back, I just grab my scroll frame and rotate it up and do what I need to and rotate it back down. It's really easy to get to the back, and I really like that. I also have some legs that with the feet that are more centered, and they're a little bit taller, that if I can't stitch on the table for some reason, I can use that to stitch on as kind of a lap stand. So that's kind of what my setup looks like. Hopefully that will help you guys if you've had a hard time picturing how things are set up. Also, I mentioned in that video as how I got started. I mentioned that I had an aunt that knit, and that I enjoyed watching her knit, but she never considered teaching me how to knit. And I actually had to go looking for some double point needles because I needed them for a square that I'm knitting for my afghan. And so I was rooting through all of my knitting stuff, and I found something that I forgot that I had, and I thought that you'd like to see it. So one of the things that my aunt did, and she passed away a couple of years ago, one of the things that she knit was she knit lace. And she knit, I think this is called a border. She knit a lace border that she would put on she would knit this, and then she would sew it to the edges of pillowcases so that you'd have lace on pillowcases. And I found out that I have one of her edgings that she did. It probably looks better this way. So this is what she did, and she did this all the time. So this is lace. It's actually garter stitch lace, which means you knit on both sides. It's not stockinette stitch. I think that makes it kind of stretchy. And she called these triangle scallops. And you can see, if you look at it, I don't know if it shows up on camera, but it's kind of discolored a little bit. I suspect this was the last one that she did, because it's not blocked or washed, so it's kind of discolored from the oil in her hands. I also have a couple of balls of the thread that she used, which I don't know. It says DMC 50. So this is like thread. It's really, really, really thin. And I have no idea what size knitting needle she used. I don't have her knitting needles. So I don't know. It's so thin, she might have been knit with toothpicks or something. I don't remember. But so any of you guys, if there's any of you out here that's knit lace like this, if you know what size of knitting needles you'd use for something like this, I'd love to hear that. So yeah, I have the pattern for this. My mom, I have her pattern actually, and I went and bought some. Well, not this size thread, but I bought some that was a little bit thicker and tried knitting it once, and it came out like huge. It was like too big. And I think I was using size 1 needles or something. So anyway, my problem with this, I've tried doing this before. I've tried crocheting doilies a couple of times, and I don't know, my fingers just feel so big and ham-handed that I've never really enjoyed doing it, I guess is the right way to do it. It just feels really strange. But you know, this is, I guess this is my family legacy, and it would be kind of good figure out how to do this just to keep the family tradition going, I guess. Also, I'll show you an update on what I've done as far as my knitting goes. Okay, so this is what I was working on the last time I showed you, and I don't weave in my ends until the very end, so I've got ends all over the place. But this is Inchworm. Let's see, there we go. Inchworm, I finished Inchworm, which is, that was kind of a fun one. And then I've done another pattern. This is called single strand lace. So this is a lace block. And you can see it's in a diamond pattern. This is kind of an interesting pattern. If you usually when you knit lace, you do the yarn overs and the decreases on the right side, and then you purl going back. And what that does is that makes the threads that go along the holes, it makes it so that there's two strands that wrap around each other. And if you've seen lace, if you've seen knitted lace, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. This one, this pattern, you do the yarn overs and the decreases on both sides, and that makes it so that you've only got one strand going across. It's also kind of a pain to knit because that means that when you're going back, you have to purl two together and back, which is what I consider to be the hardest stitch to knit. And even to make things worse, when you get to the top of the diamond, you have to do a 3-stitch decrease, which is purl 3 together and back, which is, oh, that's really fun to try to do, let me tell you. But there we go, a single strand lace. I'm a little bit worried because this one is, I guess it'll expand out, but it looks pretty small compared to some of my other squares. And then I recently started a new one, and this is it is a square, but it's knit in the round. So right now it looks like a circle. This is a decreasing, I don't remember what it's called, but it's a decreasing square. So you cast on a whole bunch of stitches and you do 3-stitch decreases at the corners of the square. So you can kind of see right there, there's one of my corners that's kind of starting to take shape. And eventually I'll have to, this is a 9-inch circular needle, which is, my hands are almost too big to use a 9-inch circular. But when I get down to a smaller number of stitches, I'm going to have to switch over to double points, which is why I needed my double points. Anyway, so there's that. We'll see how that goes. I'm kind of glad to show you these. It kind of makes me want to work on them a little bit more. So that's my knitting and everything. And I think I'm gonna let's get into what I've been stitching. And I'm really excited because I feel like I have a lot of progress to show you. So first of all, let's do my graphs. And the first thing I'll show you is my stitch trend. And so here's my stitch trend. You'll see that I have stitched about the same number of days. I've had both months, I guess the number of days I've been able to stitch has kind of dropped a little bit. It seems like I've had something in the evenings about once a week that has made it so that I've only been able to stitch about 28 days a month. And you'll see that the number of stitches that I've put in continues to be low. That's because I'm stitching mostly full coverage stuff. So it's kind of, that makes it so that I'm still stitching about the same amount. It's just that I'm not covering as much area in my charts. Here's my whip trend. you'll see that the number of whips that I have has dropped. That's because I had another finish, and I'm excited to show that to you in a minute. I'm down to 8 whips, and I am kind of really on a quest to drive this number down lower. And I'm going to talk about what I'm doing to try to make that happen. Here's since I had another finish, I'll show you my start trend. You can see that I have started fewer projects this year, and I think that's kind of good. If my goal is to drop the number of whips, I need to drop the number of starts that I have. And also, here's my finish trend. I just want to show you, I now have 3 finishes, which is less than I made last year, but I've still got, what, 4 months left in the year? So that's exciting. I actually think that I am going to be able to get another couple of finishes. Maybe 3, I'm hoping. I guess we'll see what happens, but that's kind of, I'm hoping for 2 more finishes at the end of the year, and we'll see what happens. So those are my graphs, and since I've already told you I've got a finish, I'm going to show you my finish. And you probably already know, if you've been following me on Instagram, what that finish is. But I finished the 4th duck. I finished green winged teal. So this is my 4th duck. And yeah, I am really happy with him. He was really fun to stitch. He's my favorite. I really like the colors of that cloth. Those are my favorite colors of the 4 claws. And yeah. So he took me a couple of weeks to do, and I decided I just needed to finish him. So here he is. So, and then just as a refresher, I'm going to show you the other 3 so you can see the entire set. This is Mallard, which is the first duck that I stitched. And then I stitched Pintail. And finally, I stitched the wood duck. So yeah, I tried to, well, let me see. I think it's too hard to show them all together, but let me see if I can do that. I am really glad to have all 4 ducks finished, and they've been really fun to stitch, and I think they're going to make a nice set. I want to be able to hang these in my cubicle at work somehow. And I've got the wall space. I know where I want to hang them. And I'm trying to decide how to frame them. And I've come up to the conclusion I'd like a nice wood frame. I haven't decided whether or not to try to mat them. But let's see here. Yeah, this is not going to work very well. Let me see here. Yeah, anyway. You know, I go to Hobby Lobby and all they have is frames of this size or table frames, which they don't have a hook that looks sturdy enough that will allow me to hang them on my cubicle. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with them, but they're done, and I'm really happy with them. Okay, So that's the one finish that I had. And now I'm going to show you what I've been working on. And the first thing that I've been working on is a lot of you, I've had several people comment that they've missed seeing Autumn Magic, and I decided I missed it a little bit too. So I decided to start working on Autumn Magic again. Of course, this is what it will look like when it is finished. It's a house in an autumn setting. It's a painting by Randal Spangler, and it is adapted by or converted into a chart by Heaven and Earth Designs. I am stitching this over 1 on 25 count Lugana. I have been stitching this for years. It feels, yes, it has been. I've been working on this for at least 4 years. This is my oldest whip, and considering it's my oldest whip, I don't have as much to show for it as I would like. But anyway, I'll insert a picture here of what it looked like the last time you saw it, and it was a long time ago that you saw it. I can't remember now, but it was towards the end of last year that I got kind of tired of this and put it up for a while, and it's just been kind of languishing in the background. Well, anyway, here I'm excited to show you this because I've made a lot of progress on this, and this is what it looks like now. So yeah, so the last time you saw this, I was working on this page up here, and I got really discouraged with this page. The biggest problem with this page is that it's just blobs of color, it's just leaves, and there's nothing that really takes shape, so it is really hard for me to stitch. Part of what I like to stitch about stitching is seeing things develop as I stitch, and there was very little to keep my interest up here. I don't know if this will show up, but the edge of the house is like right here along this edge of the page. So I'm really excited to stitch this page when I get to it. And then I've been working on this page down here, and I have more of the house showing up. This is one of the doors. I think this is a side door. And I finally finished this big gate, which I think looks really awesome. I had my doubts about this when I started stitching over here, but now that it's all in place, I really like it. I have really felt compelled, and I have really, since I finished this page has just been a joy to stitch. I was worried that it would be really confetti heavy, and yeah, there are some places that are pretty confetti heavy, but there are others that are not so much. So it has really been fun to stitch, and I am really enjoying this right now. So you can see I've hit this corner down here on this page, and here's the upper corner of this page. That means that my diagonals are going to get shorter again, and this page is, I think this page is going to be finished pretty soon. And then I'm going to work down here on the yard, which I'm kind of excited about that too. That'll be fun. But yeah, I can't stop looking at that. I pull it up, my picture that I posted on Instagram of the whole thing up to this point, and I just stare at it. It is really cool, and I'm getting really more excited about that piece. The second piece that I'm working on, that I've worked on this time, is Midsummer Roses. Of course, this is a painting by Paula Vaughan. And let's see, it's adapted by Chandler. So all of you guys who we talk about Paula Vaughan's, yeah, she did the paintings, but she didn't do the needlework. So I feel sorry for Jane Chandler because I think she's the one who adapted all of them, and she doesn't get any credit, so I'm going to give her some credit. Anyway, that's what it's going to look like. It's basically a bucket of roses, pink and red and yellow roses with a hat, the trellis in the background, and then there's a water faucet here. And I've been working on this quite a bit too, so I'll insert a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. And let's see here. Let me get this all situated. This is the piece that I'm working on this week, so it's kind of in my frame, and I sort of took it out so I could show it to you. This is what it looks like now. So yeah, so I'm starting to feel like I'm getting towards the end of this piece. And I've stitched a lot of the bouquet, and a lot of the hat is coming into focus. This is actually, the bottom corner is right here, so I've hit the bottom corner here. And actually, if you look at the chart, I'm getting to the end of the bouquet too. So the bouquet and the hat are almost finished, and all I'm going to have left is a bunch of white and trellis, which I don't know. It's starting to feel like I have to really slog through the white. So, and you know, I've had people ask me, why do you stitch diagonally? Part of the reason why I like to stitch diagonally is I get a lot of variety as I work down diagonally through here. If I worked across like this, that would just be a ton of white to stitch. So it gives me white this white in little sections, and that makes it more bearable for me. So yeah, I like how this is turning out. Now, this is a leisure art chart, and I don't know if you guys know, but of course I use the 10 by 10 grids, the thick grids, to help orient myself and help me know where I am. Leisure art charts that span more than a page, they do not, those 10 by 10 thick grid lines, they do not line up. It's a big pain. So I actually finished the first page here. That the page border is like right through here. And I've kind of been fudging over here. And now I want to get lined up with the 10 by 10 grid again. So I am doing an extra long diagonal this time to get myself all lined up. So anyway, yeah, if you did, it's one of my pet peeves. I do not like leisure arts charts. I don't like colored. I don't like their color. I don't like the fact that they're colored because sometimes I have a hard time distinguishing what color I should use. So I don't like that, and then the grids don't line up. Okay, one other piece I've worked on these past 2 months is Let Freedom Ring. Of course, this is a design by Lila's Studio. A lot of you have seen this. A lot of you have been stitching it. I kind of feel like it. Annette from Annette's Acre and Pam from Stitching Between the Lines. Somehow we always end up working on this together. It's kind of fun. It's like, oh yeah. Pam, she started at the top. And I started at the bottom. If we put ours together, we'd have a full piece. We'd be all done. So I'll insert a picture of what it looked like. This looked like the last time you saw it. And I've only worked on this for about a week since you last saw it. but this is what it looks like now. So yeah, it's really starting to take shape. So what I stitched last time is I stitched this Let Freedom Ring, all of these stars, and I stitched this flower over here. I didn't get as much done as I wanted to. This was the week that I worked on this was the week that I went to Utah. And so there just wasn't a lot of time available for stitching. I feel like I'm so close, but I can't ever seem to get it together. I mean, oh, I also started working on this flower up here. I mean, I just got flowers, a flag, and the Liberty Bell to stitch. And then the top border. I'm so close, but it feels like every time this comes up, I have stuff happen that makes it so that I don't make as much progress as I would like. But there it is. It's getting really close. But I think in a good couple of weeks and that'll be done. So that is what I've been working on. I feel like I've made a lot of progress on these pieces. And part of the reason why I think that is that, well, I've changed my rotation. My last update I said, I'm putting my rotation back in, and then I said, this is how what I'm going to work on this month. And then a couple of days later, I completely changed my mind. And what I decided to do is, rather than have a full-blown rotation right at the start, I decided to build my rotation up. And I thought, if I do that, part of the reason I wanted to do that is I decided I wanted to work on Autumn Magic, and I decided I wanted to have a lot of time to work on Autumn Magic. I wanted to get a lot of progress. And the other thing I thought is, if I concentrate on the pieces that I've stitched a lot of, that are getting closer to being finished, maybe I'll be able to actually finish them and get the number of whips that I have down. So that's what I've done. I've been slowly building up my rotation. And so what that means is, when I started my rotation, I started out with Autumn Magic, and then I stitched Green Wing Teal, and I finished Green Wing Teal. So I started out with 2 pieces in my rotation, got 1 done. So I had 1 piece left in my rotation again. So then I started back up at the top, and I stitched Autumn Magic, and I added in Midsummer Roses. So in 2 pieces in my rotation. And after I stitched Autumn Roses, I went back up and I stitched Autumn Magic, and then I stitched Midsummer Roses, Autumn Roses. Where did that come from? I stitched Autumn Magic and Midsummer Roses again, and then I added in Let Freedom Ring. So now I've got 3 pieces in my rotation. And now, and then I went back up and started over again. I've stitched Autumn Magic. Right now I'm working on Midsummer Roses. Next week I will do Let Freedom Ring, and I'll add a 4th piece in. And I think my 4th piece is going to be my Lavender and Lace Santa. That's kind of what I'm planning on right now. And those are all, with the exception of Autumn Magic, those are all the 3 pieces that I think I'm closest to finishing. And so what that's done is it's made it that I've worked on Autumn. In the last 2 months, I've worked on Autumn Magic for 3 weeks. I'm on my 3rd week of Midsummer Roses. Yeah, that sounds right. I'm on my 3rd, no, I've worked on Autumn Magic 4 weeks. I'm on my 3rd week of Midsummer Roses, and I'll be on my 2nd week with Let Freedom Ring. And so I'm getting a lot of progress on a few projects. Because I'm adding things in, I'm not getting startitis. My startitis is gone, which is a good thing. And I am hoping, here's what I'm thinking. Autumn Magic is so huge that I need to work on it pretty regularly. And I'm hoping that I don't get burned out on it. But if I'm ever going to finish that piece, I need to work on it almost like every other week. If I worked on Automagic straight through without doing anything else, my spreadsheets say that it would take me 2 or 3 years to finish. So if I do it every other week, that means 5 or 6 years. So yeah, and even if I do it even more, if I do it even less, then it's like decades. And I want to fit it. I mean, I enjoy stitching it. I enjoy the process, but I want to get something done too. So my plan is that I hope to be able to get the number of pieces that I'm working on down to a very small number, so that I can feel comfortable working on Automagic like every other week. I think that if I worked on that piece constantly, I would burn out on it. I need to have a break, and I think every other week or every 3 weeks is just the sweet spot for that piece. So I want to get down to that number of whips. I feel like I'll accomplish more that way, or I will feel like I'm accomplishing more, I should say. So that's kind of what my plans are going forward. Is like I say, I'm going to be stitching, well, I basically told you I'm going to be stitching Midsummer Roses this week, Let Freedom Ring, and then I'm going to be stitching something new. And I think I've only got a couple weeks left with Midsummer Roses. 2 or 3 weeks, I'm hoping, with Let Freedom Ring. You know, so I think, and then Spirit of Christmas is actually pretty, I think I'm getting close to that one too. So I'm hoping that I can get some finishes and not start anything. I don't know. Yeah, I was kind of holding out the possibility of starting something for my birthday. Right now, I don't know. I don't want to add anything to what I'm working on. So my birthday's next month. I guess we'll see when we get to next month. Anyway, that's all I have to share with you. I hope that you have enjoyed spending time with me. Thank you for coming back and watching. I am getting really close to having 3,000 subscribers, and I'm thinking about doing a giveaway to thank everybody for subscribing and watching me. So I'm making some plans and hoping that I will hit 3,000 subscribers. As always, if you want to follow me on a daily basis, you can check me out on Instagram. I always enjoy, I post a picture almost daily every time I stitch, and you can follow me along as I work through these pieces. Also, if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe, and I always enjoy hearing your comments. So comment below and let me know what you think about what I'm stitching. Anyway, thanks. I hope that you have a great month, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.